What's up, guys? It's your boy Justin with another fantasy book review. Today we're reviewing the 1985 Terry Brooks book, The Wishsong of Shannara, which is the third book in the Shannara Chronicles, published by Del Rey, and Ballantine. Yeah, so I got this book like 2 weeks ago, I think, and I started reading it 5 days ago, and the book's already falling apart. So I won't be able to show you the illustrations because I'm trying to keep this book together until I can go out and get some glue to fix it. Right? Yeah. So this book is about 498 pages. A little shorter than the last book in this series, which was the Elfstones of Shannara, right? This book takes place 20 years after the events of the second book, the Elfstones of Shannara, and 70 years after the first book, even though I'm pretty sure it would only be 60 years, because it was like a 40-year gap between the first book and the second book. And yeah, so it should only be 60 years, but they according to the author, it was 70 years, right? So yeah, just like with the first two books, Al-Anon, the last druid, goes to our main characters, which is Bryn Omsford and her brother J.R.R. Omsford, sorry, who is the 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 son and daughter of Will Omsford, the protagonist of the last book, right? Who married Erchiaria, the roamer. I think that's what they called the gypsies in that book. She was basically a gypsy, right? Will Omsford married her, and they had two kids, right? And the Elfstones somehow, the magic of the Elfstones transmuted into, through his blood and changed his two kids, who both have the power of what they call the Wish Song, which the Wish Song lets its user, depending on who's using it, either Bryn or Jarl, which very hard to pronounce name. It's spelled J.A.I.R. So I think it's pronounced Jarl. I don't know. But yeah, when Bryn uses it, it lets her change the nature of things, right? So she can use it to heal wildlife and change uh, trees and plants and animals' behavior, right? When Jar uses it, it's basically genjutsu. He can do pretty much, he can create illusions, right? And he likes to prank people by making them think they're covered in snakes or spiders, right? Yeah, so when they all live in Shady Vale, and they're best friends with Roan Leia, who is the grandson of Menion Leia, who was the prince of Leia, right, the Highlander, and his grandson is best friends with the Omsford siblings, and he has a special relationship with Bryn, right? While the Bryn and Jar's parents are away, Al-Anon comes to them and tells them, "Hey, I need to take Bryn with me on an adventure to destroy the Ildatch, which is a book of dark magic that was left behind by the Warlock Lord, right? Who the book was founded by his cult, and for 60 years, they've been the dark magic has been transforming them into moored wraiths or black walkers, which are they're like spirit beings that walk the earth, that have the power to corrupt things, and then they also can use fire magic just like Al-Anon, right? And they whipped the gnomes into a frenzy and forced them to fight a war against the dwarves, right? And they're also poisoning the Silver River, which will kill everything in the land, right? So like Al-Anon takes Bryn and Roan on him with an adventure and left J.R.R. behind to like tell his parents what happened, only for him to get kidnapped by a gnome tracker called Slanter, right? And he gets taken to the north to the gnomes and black walkers, only to be saved by the borderman weapons master Garrett Jax, right? Who's this cool character, black hooded character, who's like who's like a master of all kinds of weapons, like staffs, swords, daggers, right? He kind of reminded me of like Aragorn back when he still went by Strider in like the Lord of the Rings, right? And you know he rescues Jarl, right? And like Slanter joined their group, and Jarl gets a vision from the king of the Silver River, the spirit being that that's like the avatar of the Silver River, right? Which is a river that runs through the land. And he tells Jarl that his sister is doomed to fail, right? And that he has to purify the poison Silver River, right? And has to journey to like the Heaven's Well, which is the source of the Silver River, in the fortress of the Ildach, right, where the Ildach is, right? And then he has to rescue his sister, right? So he gets joined by Garrett Jax, the Borderman weapons master, Elb Forricker, who's a dwarf warrior, right? Isdane Isildur, which is the son of Andor Isildur, the king of the elves, right? And he's like the grandson of the elf king from the first two books. I forget his name, right? And you also have the Borderman Helt, right? So like in this book, you follow like our two characters as they go on separate journeys, right? Where they encounter like strange creatures, battle like evil monsters, fight the gnomes, right? Like there's a point in the book where Jarl's group is participating in a siege battle, right? Where the gnomes and the black walkers summon a fucking kaiju called the Kraken that messes up the castle, where our characters have to fight it, right? That's like the only time I can think of in the series where they fought like a giant monster. I mean, they fought like, ogres and like dragons before, right? But it's like, wow, this is the first time where they fought like a giant actual kaiju monster, right? Yeah, other members joined the group as well. You have an old man called what was his name? I forget his name. I forgot his name. What was his name? Oh, I just saw it too. Shit. Coglin. That's his name. An old man named Coglin, who is like a chemist who has like black powder and like different chemicals, right? Including like he has this white crystal that can explode in like a white light, just like the crystal that Walter White used in like what was it, like the finale of season 1 against Tuco, right? Like he's like a chemist. That's like the only reference in the book that this fantasy world is supposed to be like a post-apocalypse, right? I mean, they reference other stuff. It was one of the few things where it remind you, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a post-apocalypse. This fantasy world is supposed to be like a post-apocalypse, right? Which they also introduce like other new fantasy creatures and races. Like they introduced the Melrats, which are like snake men that used to rule the gnomes and kept them as slaves before the warlock lord showed up. They also have a new like these this new breed of cat, which is like a giant cat called a Moor cat, which is one of the characters that joins our group with Coglin and his granddaughter Bryn, right? Which the Moor cat is like this giant cat that can go invisible, like the Predator, right? Which helps our heroes, right? So I really enjoyed the book. There's going to be spoilers, by the way. I enjoyed the book. I thought the dialogue was good. It had like realistic portrayals of, you know, of our characters, right? You don't have um, like over the top, like strong woman characters. They have like realistic women characters in the book, in my opinion, right? Not like the cartoony, like, portrayals you see in like the MCU, right? And like, action movies. They're like realistic women characters, in my opinion, right? Um, yeah, like I enjoyed the book, and like there was lots of action, lots of intrigue or drama, right? But drama in a good way, where like there was some tense scenes, right? Where like, holy crap, man! Like there's like a scene where like our characters have to go through um like a super dark cave that has like these rocks that can eat people, right? Called procs, which they have a stupid name, but they're still terrifying. Where the only one to lead them was like a captured mel rat that tried to kidnap Jarl to take his like elven magic, right? And only for them to get betrayed by the mel rat and had the force to kill him and then try to figure out how to get out of the dark tunnel because like it's enchanted, so like only magic lights can like work in the dark cave, right? That was very tense. There was very lot of tense scenes in the book, right? Though I thought like there's like a weird scene where like I consider these like heroic like light fantasy books, but there's like a scene where Bryn and a sick Roan, after a battle with a demon called the Jakraya, which is like this orangutan like fucking monster that almost kills all of them. They go to this trading center to look for help for Roan, and like bandits that got drunk at the trading center tried to burst into Bryn's room to do what to her, and she was forced to use the wish song against him, which apparently could be used as a weapon. And I'm like, wow, that this took a dark turn for a fantasy series that never really had stuff like that. Like that was almost like a scene you would see in like the Sword of Truth series or Game of Thrones, right? But it didn't get too far out of hand, but still, man, like yeah. So I thought that was a little uncharacteristic, right? And then there's the fact that like which I'm gonna spoil this. So if you want to be spoiled, my rating is in the description. I think I'm giving this like a 7 out of 10. So if you don't want to get spoiled, leave now. The only reoccurring character throughout this series, right, is the druid Alanon, right? The last druid who has like a special magic that can let him like prolong his lifetime, his life by going to sleep, and like he goes to like this kind of stasis, right? Where he disappears, like he goes to his sleep and like he only comes back when the land is in danger, right? So he disappears, right? I mean, like sorry, in the first book he kind of disappears, right? When it's time for him to go to sleep, and then like in the books they retcon it saying like no, he has to go to like the Hades horn, which I always thought was Hades Shorn, but it's pronounced Hades Horn apparently. Where the ghost of his dead father lives. That's where he has to go to like sleep, right? Which is like in the first book he kind of disappeared, mid speaking to Shea, right? So that was like, they retconned that. But yeah, like what happens? He dies halfway through the book, and it's like, wow, the only reoccurring character in this book series is dead. So it's like, I kind of don't. I recommend this book, and I think you don't even really need to read the first two books to read and enjoy this book, because the main characters are always a new cast of characters, right? With one or two like characters from the last book, right? But it's like, wow, they killed off the only reoccurring character from this series. So now it's like, wow, is there any reason really to read the next book, right? I don't know, but and then it's like it does make you curious. Okay, where can they go from here when they lost like their main character, like one of the few recurring main characters, right? So that's like my only complaint in the book. And the book is brutal. A lot of like named characters die in this book, right? But most of them die near the end, and it kind of pisses me off because like the whole reason why the weapon master Garrett Jax, who's like the coolest character in the book, goes with J.R.R, however you pronounce his name, is because he was promised this epic battle, right? And you don't really see the conclusion of the epic battle. So I guess I understood why they do it. So they wanted to keep it up to like make it like, oh, he was obviously he was killed by the thing, but it's like, did he kill the monster back, or was it when the book was destroyed, did the monster disappear? Who knows, right? So they kept it open ended. Alright, but it's like, oh man, I kind of would have liked to have seen that fight, but I kind of got why they didn't show it, because they wanted to keep it like, did he win or did he not win? Who knows, right? I like to think he won, because if he did lose, his corpse would have been a lot more fucked up, probably, considering what kind of monster he was fighting, right? And I also thought it was weird. One of the monsters is like a crocodile monster, and then you get introduced to a new race of people called the Melrats, which is a stupid name for what is supposed to be snake men. But for some reason, the snake men are like intelligent, but the crocodile men aren't. So it's like, what the fuck. But other than that, I enjoyed this book. It does borrow somewhat again from Lord of the Rings, which was one of the main complaints of the first book, and this book is fucking falling apart. Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. So I'm gonna end this review, but yeah, I still recommend this book, and like I said, you don't really need to read the first two books to enjoy this book, I don't think. But yeah, you should always start when you start a series. You should always start at the beginning, right? So yeah, Spoony Bard, was like, he didn't ask us, but he was kind of like, oh, because one of the books I put up in the poll for our next book review was a Warhammer book, and he was like, I'm more into Warhammer 40k, right? So I promised him, okay, when Fantasy Month is done, which by tomorrow it's going to be December, so Fantasy Month is going to be officially ended there. I promised him, hey, we'll do a Warhammer 40k book review, right? So we have three choices here. The first one is the Ultramarines Omnibus by Graham McNeil. You have the second choice is the Blood Angels Omnibus by James Swallow. And then the third choice is the Salamanders Omnibus, right? So, like, these are going to be the three choices for our next book review. I probably won't be able to finish them in a week. It's probably going to take me, at least 10 days, right, to read these books, because I'm a slow reader. And I won't start reading until Monday. So you have until Monday to vote in the poll for the next book